Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. The topic I'm going to talk about today is the merchant ecosystem as a means to adopt cryptocurrencies. Um, Let me introduce myself, a brief profile. Okay, I'm the current advisor for Space Travel, a lifestyle application that sits on blockchain that actually deploys cryptocurrency in an ecosystem. I'll talk more about that later. Also, I'm actually with various industrial associations, one with the SGTech Blockchain Committee. I'm also the founding board member of the Singapore Blockchain Association, now known as the Blockchain Association of Singapore. I'm also involved in exchanges, so I'm actually one of the board members of the Digital Exchange Association. Last but not least, I'm the founding top co-board member of this global fintech association called the Global FinTech Foundation. Okay, the world as it is now. Cryptocurrencies are definitely proliferating, definitely getting much more widely used or traded or invested in. Now, that's 10 years since when Bitcoin first started. The value of all the cryptocurrencies in total have reached 0.25 trillion. Now, to refer that, to use a sense of reference, in total right now, there's 1.7 trillion US dollar and 1.4 trillion euros in circulation today, right, based on records. So what it means is that effectively, all cryptocurrencies have reached like 15% of all this fiat currency in circulation in the world right now. And just took 10 years. Fiat currency were around for hundreds of years, right? Or at least for the US, few hundred years. And for them to reach this, I would say, velocity in terms of circulation, it is a big achievement. It's really exponential. Now, as of November last year, 2019, Bitcoin is the world's sixth largest currency in circulation, and it is slowly climbing up. It is now popular in conjunction, or would say in comparison to gold, right, which has been around for thousands of years. But Bitcoin is starting to be gaining a reputation of being the new gold. The average daily trading volume of cryptocurrency has surpassed 1% of all the trading in foreign exchange markets, the world's largest market by trading volume right now. So I think it is definitely here to stay in terms of not just trading, but I think in usage as well. Now, how common are cryptocurrencies around the world? There was this survey done on 1,000 respondents around the world in different countries. Take note that this is a survey done on users of cryptocurrency, as in like, have they used or owned cryptocurrencies? And you can see right on top of the spots are countries like Turkey and the South American countries. Now, why the South American countries and Turkey are heavier users of cryptocurrency, or they own cryptocurrencies? Now, this is due to the reason of hyperinflation, right? Some of these currencies are really experiencing hyperinflation right now, as well as like volatility, right? Because of political and economic instability in these countries, the citizens, the nationals, or in those countries feel that they can no longer trust their own country's currency as a form of store of value or form of payment, right? So they are now really going to something that's easy access for them to actually use as store of value, as well as something they can use for payment. Now, again, this is based on how they use and own. It doesn't mean in total volume. Obviously, in terms of total volume execution, the US, Japan, and all the developed countries in Europe will be the highest in terms of volume trading, in terms of the capital market sizing, right? So, but the thing is that you can see that in terms of users down from the grassroots, I would say that it's coming from those countries. There's a real reason for that. Now, what are the benefits of payment in merchant ecosystems? So definitely lower transaction fees than I would say mainstream payment networks like Visa, MasterCard. Easily the transaction fee is 4%. Meanwhile, for doing crypto transactions, like from sending one wallet to another wallet, whether you're using for payment or using for just to purchase for investment, the transaction fee is fixed at a certain amount. Now, of course, it takes a bit of time. You cannot compare the speed in terms of executing the payment with regards to your standard payment networks like Visa or even PayPal. But however, the fees are fixed, so you know exactly how much you're spending in terms for the merchant, right? How much they have to pay for the fees and all that. So definitely lower transaction fees. Security is evolving. When it first started, obviously there were a lot of concerns with regards of using crypto to do, for payments or even for trading, because there were many hacking incidents of people losing their cryptocurrency by hackers, right? But if evolving security and implementation of 2FA for crypto wallets, for various users, I think things have actually improved, right? Less instances of actually hacking, other than the fact that exchanges, wallet accounts in exchanges do get hacked. However, if on digital wallet and all that actually used for payments and all that, they have evolved security. Now, there are no chargebacks in terms of when you actually do crypto payments, right? What I mean by chargeback is that there are many cases of actually fraud being initiated by chargeback by buyers of goods and services, right, using credit card. For instance, they were to just call their bank and say that even though after they purchase, they will just call the bank and say they cancel the transaction, especially if there's an online transaction, and say that they didn't receive the good when they actually did. So lots of fraud going on and all that. Now, good thing about crypto payment is that once the transaction is executed, there is no way you can actually retrieve back or claw back the transaction unless it is agreed upon by the receiver. So it reduces this kind of purchaser fraud as well. At least for merchants, this is really advantage to merchants. Transactions are truly borderless. So it doesn't matter where you are actually located, be it you are in Malta, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in China, and even all the way to Australia, and of course US, in Europe. You can actually send payment or you can send cryptocurrency to any wallet, right? It's wallet to wallet, truly borderless. There's no restriction in terms of the wallet, right? So basically, these are some of the benefits of using it as a payment in the merchant ecosystem. However, such information, I would say some benefits obviously need to be communicated to all the merchants to let them understand this is an alternative form of payment for them to, or rather alternative form for them to actually receive payment for selling their goods and services. Next slide. Okay, so many markets are actually seeing the beginnings of adoptions, right? For instance, in Thailand, back in 2018, Dash was the first to actually get into Thailand to actually start working with the Thai government to see if they can actually get merchants, like for instance in restaurants and coffee houses, as well as small businesses, small shops, to actually adopt using the Dash coin to actually do it as a form of payment. Now, it was not without its problem. I mean, there were a lot of challenges, some of the challenges which I'll speak slightly later, but at least they have started the adoption. They started with 19 merchants, and I think it's still growing. Of course, the other side of the story in Latin America is that PundiX and Mikada have launched the crypto merchant program as well. Now, why is this so? As mentioned, there's hyperinflation of the currencies in these countries, so it's volatility in the currency. So I think with the higher adoption, I would say at least more users actually getting crypto for the sake of as a stock of value, as well as potentially using as payment. I think that is a very, very good move, I would say, strategy by providers to actually start testing out in Latin America. Every day there are news coming forward that the adoption of cryptocurrency in terms of various sectors, in terms of not just payment, but in terms of adoption as a form of trade, finance in various sectors in Latin America is increasing. Lots of news coming from that, lots of development. So I think these are examples of where it's actually happening. Now, you wouldn't see lots of news coming out from major mature countries like US and all that is due to regulations, and they're still trying to go through the murky definition of what cryptocurrency is in terms of payment. So that will take a bit of time, not because of people are not interested, but it's due to regulations in developed countries that are actually getting in the way of payments. Now, definitely, while this is all well and good and it's attractive, there are problems and challenges to adopting cryptocurrency as a form of payment in the merchant ecosystem. Now, what are these problems and challenges? Now, first and foremost is high barriers to entry. There is always a problem of accessibility of funds. Doing on such scale, you need lots of money to actually make it work in the first place. Not just money in getting the tech, which is a bit complicated for that integration to various, I think, existing mainstream system, but as well as the marketing effort, right? Because you want to drive adoption, you want to drive awareness and all that, you need to actually come up with lots of funds to actually initiate marketing as well. Now, secondly is that this needs to be, and it ties in with the second point, that needs to be lots of new users and merchant onboarding, right? Currently, awareness, well, I say awareness among users are good. The awareness among merchants are extremely low, right? Because merchants are not cognition of the fact that cryptocurrency is a very good form of payment for selling the goods and services. Now, so such awareness needs to be highlighted and kind of like, need to be enhanced in terms to the merchants, right? Not just the users, because I think a lot of effort has been spent on users, not enough effort has been spent on merchants, right? So that's definitely one. And secondly, is about usability. Now, it's all well and good if your merchant is a small business that doesn't have the existing point of sale system, but unfortunately, most merchants, right, be it restaurants and even retailers, they have their own point of sale system. Now, it's about usability. How does the crypto payment, I would say, app be able to integrate with their existing point of sales, right? To actually look into inventory and things like that. Right now, I think your traditional payment methods, payment networks in that country, as well as like Visa, MasterCard, they are already integrated with the point of sale system seamless, right? So how do you actually make it easier for getting merchant on board with regards to that? Secondly is that what do merchant get out of this, right? So is it because the cost of actually transaction is lower, much lower than the payment network? Is it something that, is they understand? Now that's another question altogether as well for them to, to be able to see that this is all beneficial for them. Now, next point is the problem of converting from crypto to fiat. Now, like it or not, the world still operates on fiat currency, right? Your US dollars, your Chinese renminbi and things like that. Now, the thing is that there is a huge problem of converting from crypto to fiat because most banks do not accept, cryptocurrency as a form of real world currency. So no one is exchanging. Secondly, a lot of banks are pretty against cryptocurrency. So a lot of cryptocurrency providers like exchanges have problem actually getting bank accounts, right, to actually do fiat transactions when they actually do converting. Now, this is improving, I think, with the news of JP Morgan saying that they are actually now able to help provide banking services for exchanges like Gemini and all that. So I think that's something to look forward to see. Hopefully other banks will follow suit as well. But definitely the problem of converting from crypto to fiat, it is a problem for adoption because merchants and also retailers, they actually have to pay, obviously they definitely do not want to hold the cryptocurrency. They will need to pay the suppliers, pay the government agency, pay the landlord for rental and things like that. And all that need to be paid in fiat because all these other, they are the people they need to pay do not accept cryptocurrency. So they have to find a way to quickly pay them that. So they need to get it quickly converted. If it's not going to happen, that's something they will not adopt because they can't pay, right, to the suppliers and landlords and people like that need to pay. So that's something that needs to be overcome. Last but not least, of course, regulations and taxation. Now, numerous jurisdictions have kind of made it clear that they do not allow cryptocurrency as a form of legal payment because it's into the I would say the usage of their own currency. Like for instance, in Indonesia, you are able to pay for things able to pay for things with Bitcoin, right? But ever since the regulation by the Indonesian government came out that say that Bitcoin is not legal tender, it's illegal to pay for Bitcoin for services. Now that's some example of how it can actually impede the adoption of cryptocurrency as a form of payment in merchant ecosystems, right? That's definitely one. Now, again, there are various, regulations are evolving. Obviously, there are crypto-friendly countries in terms of regulations for not just the adoption of cryptocurrency as a form of transaction, but as well as for payments, like example in Singapore, like for instance in Thailand and like even in Japan. But these are all evolving, right? It could be good, it could be much more stringent. At the same time, taxation. Now, certain countries view cryptocurrency not as a form of currency, but they view it as a good a kind of good tokens itself, right? It's a form of goods. So because of that, they actually implement a goods and services tax on that particular token. So every time you transact, you make it as a payment for certain goods, besides paying GST, you actually pay GST on the sale of the token or the purchase of the token itself, right? So then it becomes a very difficult form of payment because it's not accepted as a currency, but as a good in the exchange of goods. So you're actually paying double tax. So that's something that will impede, the adoption of this as a payment. Now, how do we actually overcome the challenges, right? So usability, in terms of adoption, the dApp need to evolve, right? So the applications that does cryptocurrency payments and as well as like the digital wallets and all that, they need to evolve. They should no longer be just a simple payment app for crypto, because I think there's lots of this around, right? But how do you actually enhance it so that you can actually increase adoption, increase I would say attraction for users to actually use it, and then also for merchants to use it as well. So there needs to be an evolution in terms of app, no longer just a simple payment wallet, right, from wallet to wallet, but something much more, right? More services involved in this. Now, easier integration with mainstream system. As mentioned, one of the challenges is that it's difficult to integrate with the existing point of sale system. So the app need to evolve in terms of integration, API integration with the existing point of sale system of merchants. So I think developers will need to spend some time to research what are the prevailing point of sale system deployed by merchants across the world. Now from there, they can actually work to see how they can integrate better. So that's definitely one way to overcome this particular challenge. And of course, other features to attract users is, again, not just a very simple app, but potentially something that, I would say, attract users to actually use, besides just paying payments, some other features they can actually work it on, right? Because now everybody is actually on their mobile phone, right? A lot of times they do a lot of services, a lot of execution, social media exactly on their phone, right? So if it's just a simple wallet, it'll be just another app on the phone itself. Now, how do you actually make this app, this particular wallet, more attractive for usage? Now that's something for developers to consider. Next thing is the ecosystem expansion. Right now, as you can probably see from the news and all that, majority of these, I would say, the usage adoption for cryptocurrency as payment is mostly with food and beverages, right? Just pay for your food and pay for coffee in the coffee house and pay for food in a restaurant and things like that. So it needs to expand beyond just food and beverages in terms of retailers, like even paying for certain goods online, right? That's happening. Or even going to a department store, able to pay for goods, pay for things at supermarkets, things like that. So this needs to evolve in terms of ecosystem, and even going beyond just purely buying and selling, right? So if you look beyond into education services, paying of education services, paying for utilities, paying for any other services out there that's just beyond the retail ecosystem itself. Now, there should be trials and adoption pushing into other services besides just again just purely retail or buying and selling, even potentially into financial services, even into insurance services. Now, how does that work then is that there needs to be an app or a platform that's an aggregator or the facilitator that between traditional services as well as the bank. So that's something to actually consider. This will help in overcoming people's I think reluctance to actually use. Last but not least, ecosystem cross-selling, right? How do you actually cross-sell ecosystem? Like you're buying certain thing in the retail industry, how do you actually say that it ties in with certain services you're getting? For instance, for some financial services, how does it tie in together? Now, with this cross-integration, I would say cross-selling across the ecosystem, it will drive interest to actually, for participants to get onto the ecosystem itself. Now, the last thing to do, I would say, to actually able to overcome the challenges will be incentivization. Now, how do you incentivize both users and merchants to actually, be able to provide, get into this ecosystem, right? So it cannot be just rewards to incentivize users, because you can incentivize users all they want. You can have millions of users, but insufficient merchants. End of the day, that the ecosystem doesn't work. It's both ways, right? You need to reward and incentivize the users to get on board to use, as well as need to incentivize and reward merchants for them to be able to provide these services. Well, I mean, I would say using cryptocurrency to be accepted as a form of payment. So definitely rewards to incentivize, users as crypto payment, as well as for merchants to accept crypto payments. Now, one way of actually incentivizing merchants, of course, is marketing, right? If you're just telling merchants that, no doubt, yes, lower fees and all that, but yeah, just another payment provider, eventually, even if they'll take you on, they will lose interest, because why they will rather pay maybe 4% to people like Visa and MasterCard is because Visa and MasterCard does a lot of advertisement, right? They do a lot of marketing that drives traffic to the merchants. Now, so for adoption as well as incentivization for merchants, definitely you need to look into how to actually help merchants to do marketing as well, right? For them to drive traffic into their ecosystem, from users. And of course, make it easy to change to fiat currency, right? There must be an automatic exchange mechanism in place where merchants can quickly change the cryptocurrency they receive as form of payments from users into fiat currency in their bank account, which they can then actually pay to their suppliers or their landlord. So that's something that needs to be done to overcome all these challenges. Okay, so with wider acceptance, cryptocurrency, there is a real chance, right, becoming the world's choice for payment in the future. We do not see it now, but if we can overcome all these challenges and all that, I think there's a very good chance that this will happen, and this will truly become a choice for payment in the future. Now, I'm going to share with you a particular application that is actually on its way to becoming to actually overcome some of these challenges and potentially able to be a form to really help to actually drive adoption of cryptocurrency in a merchant ecosystem.